Hello Raptors fans, and welcome back to Raptors Report. Today we are going to be discussing the Toronto Raptors game against the Denver Nuggets, where they fell 119 to 121 in what was a very exciting but also very frustrating game towards the end. And we will get into that. We'll discuss what went right, what went wrong. But before we do that, I just kind of want to talk about the team as a whole, what I'm seeing from this group, and why I am personally very excited about the future of Toronto Raptors basketball. And you may think maybe it's a bit weird to be doing this after a loss, and I can see why that would be, but if you watch the game, and if you have been watching the games over the past week or so, you can see where the arrow is pointing. The results have not really been going the Raptors' way. They earned their second victory against the Kings, which was nice, but there have been a lot of really significant developments over that time frame that have made me very positive about the future of the Toronto Raptors. And we will talk about the specific individual performances when we get into the player evaluations, but I just kind of want to talk about the team as a whole. And I think that there are some very big things brewing with the Toronto Raptors, and we're starting to see a lot of players really hit their stride at the same time. One thing that you have to notice when you watch the games is that the half-court offense of the Toronto Raptors, which has been horrendous over the past 5 or so years, it was not very good under Nick Nurse. They used a very kind of strange style that did get them wins, but in the half-court they struggled. One of the reasons for that is because everything was very static on offense. Not a ton of passing, not a ton of screenplay, not a ton of off-ball movement. It was very kind of stagnant. And in the NBA, defenses are very good. If they know what you're going to run, they're going to use the best type of coverage to cover that play and then do it over and over and over again. And it's like fighting an uphill battle. And sometimes you're going to win because in the Nick Nurse offense, you would turn the ball over less and you would grab more rebounds than the other team, and you would win a numbers game essentially. So perhaps you didn't score better than the other team, you didn't shoot very efficiently, you would be turning the ball over less because you didn't pass the ball very often, and you would be generating extra possessions because you would grab an offensive rebound here and there over the course of the game, and it would all add up, and the results were really ugly. Like, you would watch it and you would be like, this team isn't playing very well, but at the end of the day, they might walk away with the win. This team is completely different, and what the system that Darko has implemented is a very aesthetically pleasing style of basketball, and in my opinion, it fosters a sense of camaraderie and team spirit. Guys are trying to play for one another, they are making extra passes, they are getting everyone involved, everyone is able to have a seat at the table, they're not simply standing around waiting for the ball. It seems as though everybody is contributing in some way, and it seems like everyone is on the same page, which is very refreshing. I think that if you were to create an environment to grow young players in, that is the type of environment that I would try and grow them in. One where everybody is trying to work together and implement the system the best that they can. And that is why I believe that we have seen the growth of many of the players under his watch. So you have to really give Darko props for creating this system and making sure that players are growing, which is the most important thing. And don't worry, Darko will get his slander on this show because there were a couple of bad things that he did this game that we have to talk about. But why don't we get down to the game itself? Because the game was very similar to the last game that the Toronto Raptors played against the Denver Nuggets. It was really going the Raptors' way for the majority of the game. They were sharp on the offensive side of the ball. They were sharp on defense, which was impressive. Their defensive schemes were working very well against the Joker. He was turning the ball over quite a bit, way more than he usually does. He turned the ball over 7 times during that game. Of course, he had 13 assists because he is one of the best offensive players of all time. But in terms of making Jokic work, the Raptors did that. And there was one guy in particular that really played him very well. And of course, that was Jakob Poeltl, who did an excellent job, about as good a job as you can, battling Jokic. And when you have a historically great player like Jokic, you can't stop them. It is not possible to stop Jokic. But what you can do is that you can make life harder for him. You can frustrate him. You can force him to turn the ball over. You can make him shoot a worse percentage. You can push him out of the paint. You can stop him from getting the little gimme buckets that he loves to get. Just make the game as hard as possible for him, and you will slow down the Nuggets because he's the engine of that team. And the Raptors did that for the most of the evening. And the offense was humming. There were a lot of big contributions from various players. On defense, there were some surprise performances, and honestly, probably their best defensive game of the year. They were all over the place. They were really locking in and playing smart defense. And they were kind of undone at the end when they got a little undisciplined. And I have to talk about the refs. I don't like talking about them too much. Maybe you think I do like talking about the refs, because I have been talking about them quite a bit recently. The Raptors' free throw differential in the fourth quarter when it was winning time was ridiculous. 38-18 in terms of free throws over the course of the game, but the majority, the huge free throw discrepancy happened in the fourth. Jakob Poeltl entered the second half with 0 fouls, okay? And he fouled out of the game. I'll talk about 2 things, and then I won't talk about the refs anymore, because I'm kind of getting sick of talking about the refs, and I don't want to make it all about them, because the Raptors did a lot of things to lose this game themselves. But 2 of the biggest standout problems that I had was Gradey Dick, who was on fire the whole evening, got fouled in the fourth quarter on one end of the floor. When Jokic came over to help and just ran into him, Gradey Dick fell over and turned the ball over. So should have been a foul on Nikola Jokic. Instead, it was a turnover. Ball gets taken down to the other end of the court. Julian Strawther goes up for a layup. Jakob Poeltl, okay, I'm not going to say he didn't foul. It was, I would say, right on that borderline where centers are allowed to, especially around the rim. There's a little bit of contact where if you were to challenge the call, there would be enough contact there that they couldn't overturn it. So let's just put that out there. So I'm not saying that it was like completely clean. What I am saying though is that in the flow of the game, centers, when they are guarding the basket, are generally allowed to do that kind of thing. The refs usually don't blow the whistle. So you go on one hand, Nikola Jokic bowls over Gradey Dick on one end, and then on the other end, Jakob Poeltl picks up his 6th foul and has to leave the game. And then the final play of the game, RJ Barrett gets the ball and dribbles out to the 3-point line and puts up a 3-point shot and is just clearly fouled by Russell Westbrook. He gets hit on the arm, Russell Westbrook lands in his space, their bodies collide. It's a foul. I understand that the refs don't like blowing the whistle at the end of the game, but in a way they are determining who the winner is, because if there is a very obvious foul and you don't call it, then you have made the team that committed the foul the winner. Okay, that's it. Get off my soapbox here, because the Toronto Raptors, one of the big downfalls that they had this game was too many turnovers in the clutch. The shoe was on the other foot, because at the beginning of the game, the Raptors were really turning over the Denver Nuggets quite a bit and getting out in transition. And then it flip-flopped, went to the other side, and the Nuggets were really punishing the Raptors in transition due to their turnovers. And, you know, that's how it goes. You can't let them back into the game, because their potency through that one elite player is going to overmatch you. You just have to keep that buffer so that when they do make a run, you can absorb it. And unfortunately, it didn't go the Raptors' way this game. So why don't we get down into the player performances, the player evaluations, because we've got some really exciting ones to talk about, none more so than Gradey Dick, who has continued his ascendancy. 26 points on 20 shots, 2 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks, and 4 turnovers. And he's doing it all. The guy is not just shooting threes, he is shooting from all over the court. Baseline jumpers are kind of his signature move now. He had a bunch of those this game. And then the biggest development, and I got to talk about this early when talking about Gradey Dick, is the defense. At the beginning of the season, he looked horrible on defense. Guys were picking him apart and really punishing him on all sorts of coverages. In this game, especially when he is guarding a guy where he doesn't have to go over the screen. Christian Braun is one of those guys. You don't have to go over the screen on him. And yes, I mean, he can shoot, but it's not like he has that super quick trigger where if you go under the screen, he's going to pop the shot right in your face. You can recover on him. He looks so much better. And they tried isolating against Gradey Dick again multiple times last night. he is also getting steals. He is showing that basketball intelligence on the defensive end by sneaking up and being in the right place and taking a little bit of a risk and creating a turnover. The block that he had on Watson, that's why it's very important to slow the ball down in transition. I believe it was Jamal Shed got between Watson and the rim, and Watson had to slow down a little bit. And guess who came up from behind? Gradey Dick came with the chase down swat, blocked it right into the Raptors bench. We're going crazy seeing Gradey being able to do that. The guy is an athlete. It's not even sneaky anymore. You're watching this guy run the entire game, just running around, running. And then he's jumping and doing something really impressive with his vertical leap. Almost every game. The game before, he had a really impressive rebound, just snatched it away from Sabonis. This game, he had that amazing block on Watson. He's really showing that he has the physical tools to play at this level. And it portends well that even though maybe he's still not the best defender on the roster by any stretch, this guy could contribute and be a real defensive player moving forward. At the age of 20, the guy is showing flashes on the defensive end. And on the offensive end, the guy is showing more than flashes. He's delivering right now, and he's being consistent. He's had 4 straight games of over 20 points, and all of the games that he's played in so far, bar one against Philadelphia, he has been in double digits. So huge leap there. Very, very excited to continue to watch this guy play and develop. He has been the biggest surprise, easily. I kind of expected RJ to make a leap, and maybe Agbaji has also been a very big surprise as well, but Gradey Dick is certainly well clear of anything I could have hoped for this season. The guy is balling and looking amazing. Next up, we are going to talk about RJ Barrett, because he had a complicated game. 16 points on 21 shots, 2 of 11 from 3, 6 rebounds, 10 assists, a steal, and 5 turnovers. So not a very good game from RJ Barrett, which is unfortunate. He has been on a tear as well. He's been playing quite well, but the Nuggets were keyed into him. They were trying to stop RJ Barrett, and that was pretty clear. And it did have some benefits for other players. For example, Jakob Poeltl had a big scoring night because they were starting to blitz the pick and roll quite a bit. And that's why RJ Barrett finished with another double-digit assist night, is that they were trying to get the ball out of RJ's hands, and they were leaving other players open. And he struggled to get going. He was not in rhythm this game. He wasn't able to score at the level that we know that he's capable of. But at the same time, when he's in that pick and roll with Jakob Poeltl, good things happen. And usually he's able to contribute by putting points on the board, but the other very important thing is that RJ Barrett is this team's point guard. I know that he is not listed as the point guard on the team, but in the half court, he is the guy that is stirring the drink. He is the one that is handling the ball and making plays for other players. And when you get him in that yak pick and roll, it is a pick your poison for other teams. There are so many options available for the Toronto Raptors, and the Raptors are picking the correct choice. They are taking what the defense gives them. This is the perfect thing to do in the pick and roll, is that the pick and roll is very advantageous for teams to run because it puts the defender in a trailing position. And when that happens, your defense has to react and figure out how to stop the penetration. And you can switch, you can do all sorts of different coverages, but in each one of those coverages, you are giving up something. And when you give up that something, it's on the offensive team to discover what the defense is giving up and then taking that. And RJ has done an excellent job of knowing what to do when he has the ball in his hands. So you have to, even in this game, even in a game where he struggles, he is making the correct decision most of the time and has the skill to be able to make the passes so that they can punish defenses when they give something up. And at the end of the game, we've already talked about it. First of all, the shot should have gone in. It was touched every part of the rim and then bounced out. But also feel bad for the guy. It's the second time his game-winning 3 did not go in against the Denver Nuggets. Kind of a carbon copy of what happened the last time. I'm not mad at him. I think he'll bounce back. I think he's playing the right way, and you have to give young players like him some time to make mistakes and not have good games, because he was bringing it every night prior to this one, and he's allowed an off night here and there, even though it probably cost the Raptors the win. Next up, you have to talk about Jakob Poeltl. Jakob Poeltl has been fantastic for the Toronto Raptors. He has been great. He has arguably been, if you account for the defensive end, the best player for the Toronto Raptors this season. Period. 24 points, 11 rebounds, another double-double on 11 of 18 shooting, 3 assists, 3 steals, only 2 turnovers. And yes, he fouled out of the game. That sucks, and of course, some of the fouls could have been prevented. Some of them are just a result of guarding the basket. And centers are supposed to pick up fouls. They're not supposed to foul out, so it's not a complete excuse, but their job is to make it difficult for the other team to score. And the way that you do that is you put your body between the offensive player and the basket. And oftentimes it's a bang-bang call, and sometimes the ref has to make a decision on whether to let it slide. And he came out on the wrong side of that too many times last night. However, as soon as Jakob Poeltl left the game, the Toronto Raptors were forced to double Nikola Jokic. And once you don't have Nikola Jokic in single coverage, he makes the exact right play, the exact right pass. It's a swing. He gets so many hockey assists just by finding a guy. Your defense has to close out once, and then they make one more pass to the corner, and there's nobody there. Wide open corner 3-point shot. If you have to double Nikola Jokic, you're actually bringing a hard double to him to try and stop him, because if you don't do that, he will score. He has the best touch in the whole league, and he's so huge. He will just pummel you, he'll back you down into the paint and score easily. With Poeltl out of the game, that's exactly what happened. That's why the Nuggets were able to come back into the game and put the Raptors away. So when Poeltl was in the game, he made it difficult for Nikola Jokic, and that's all you can ask for. And then on offense, 24 points. He was making great reads. The pick and roll, the screens he sets, the way he delivers the ball on dribble handoffs is so important. So important. The way he's able to deliver a short bounce pass to catch the offensive player in rhythm without them having to slow down, okay? So they can use the screen, but not have to slow down to catch the ball, and they can continue on their forward path with their momentum. That is huge. Huge. Not only is the screen big, creating separation there, if the ball handler, the guy who is receiving the dribble handoff, does not have to slow down, that's even more separation. The defense has to rotate. These are huge plays that make the Raptors half-court offense so much better. It's unbelievable how important these screens and these little passes, these very simple passes that he's making are. Like, these are things that do not show up in the stat sheet, but when you watch the game, you're going, okay, yes, I see why Gradey Dick is able to curl to the rim here, or I see why RJ Barrett is able to get downhill so quickly, because Jakob Poeltl is setting these fantastic screens and doing these amazing dribble handoffs. Really impressive game from him. And then once he gets inside, very efficient. It is ugly. Don't get me wrong. When you watch him play, if you're not a fan of the Toronto Raptors, you'd watch him and you'd be like, this guy isn't that good. Look at his post moves are very ugly. His flip shots are very ugly. He's kind of robotic when he goes to the rim. Doesn't matter, okay? The ball goes into the hole. When he is inside and he has a good position, he gets it to drop in. That's all I care about. That's all that matters. And then when you see what he's doing with the screens, that is the real value add when you see it. And then obviously the rebounding and the defense are great too. I joked online, I'm like, okay, should we sell high here? Jakob Poeltl playing super well. Teams are going to be interested. Sell high, get some first round picks, or like, do you keep Jakob Poeltl? Just watching him play with Gradey Dick and RJ Barrett, you're like, this guy is making their lives so easy. This is like, he's been huge for their development. So yeah, I'm really pleased with Jakob Poeltl. It's hard to find a flaw with this guy anymore now that he's hitting his free throws. Next up, Ochai Agbaji continues being very solid. Had a very solid game. He continues to shoot the 3-point shot very well. He was 2 for 4 from 3, 16 points on 11 shots, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, 0 turnovers. This guy is like playing like an elite role player. This is what you want. This is exactly what you want from a role player, okay? contributing, doing little stuff that is very impactful. The assists are notable. The corner threes are huge. The guy is a corner assassin. As long as he is taking open jump shots from the corner, the guy is cash money. The guy is hitting his threes. Very impressive. And then on defense, he is probably the best perimeter defender on the team. I think he brings a little, just because of his size, I think he's a little bit more impactful than Davion Mitchell, but he may not be the star on the offensive side of the ball, but he is making plays and doing the right thing and hitting his shots and being in the right place and cutting and just playing very solid basketball as a complementary player. And those guys, you want those guys on your team. You want a guy who doesn't need the ball in his hands, who can impact a game and help you win a game without having to have the ball in his hands. He's athletic, he's got a big body, he can run the floor. Lots of things to like about Ochai Agbaji. Very pleased with his performance over the past couple of games. Next up, Davion Mitchell. And Davion Mitchell, as I've been saying, when you were evaluating him, that he is a square peg and you shouldn't try to mentally force him into the round hole. So he does not do things that point guards should do. He can't run the offense very well. He's not very good at dribbling. He's not a great creator, okay? So if you're evaluating him from that standpoint, he's not going to look very good. If you're evaluating him from this standpoint that RJ Barrett is the point guard and he's the wing instead of the other way around, the guy is playing well. 13 points, 8 assists, 1 steal, 0 turnovers on 11 shots. He was 2 for 7 from 3, which is not great, but he hit a couple of shots. I think he's doing a good job. I really do. And I know a lot of people are kind of out on him, and he does have limitations as a player, but when you watch him play, he adds an important element to this team. He was the result. I know he was only credited for 1 steal in this game, but his activity, he's lurking, he's roaming around off ball, he's being a pest on ball. I think that he provides a big value add to this team on defense. And right now, when you have Gradey Dick and RJ Barrett as your 2 other guards, you're going to want to have a guy who can play tough defense. And Ochai Agbaji is one of those guys. Davion Mitchell is another one of those guys. You kind of need a little Beauty and the Beast going on, where you have the guys who can play defense and create chaos on the defensive end if you're going to be playing 2 other guys that maybe aren't the best defenders. I think that he is doing a good job. That said, he still has this, even though he only had 2 turnovers last night, he still does that infuriating thing where he runs into the paint and then he throws the ball without kind of looking where it's going. So he's got to stop doing that, and they got to play him a little bit off ball a little more. But I think he had a really good game last night, and it's hard to fault him when you have the correct expectations for what he's supposed to do. Off of the bench, Chris Boucher, not a good evening. 2 points in 14 minutes, just wasn't very effective. I can see why Darko maybe was a little frustrated with him, had him on a bit more of a short leash. No offensive explosion this game, unfortunately. Jamison Battle had an okay game, had 5 points, hit a 3. He's trying on the defensive end. He really does try and get into guys and move his feet, so you can't fault him too much. He's not a great defender, but he is putting in an effort on that end. Jamal Shed had a strong performance, 8 points on 3 of 4 shooting. He hit a 3, 2 rebounds, 3 assists, and a steal, and he was very active on the defensive side of the ball. He created a turnover by getting right up into Julian Strawther, who pulled his elbow through and I think bonked Shed in the nose, and it was an offensive foul. So he continues to bring it on that end. And then when he's making his shots and making plays on offense, he has that 2-way effectiveness that makes him a strong bench guard. And I really enjoyed the fact that he was able to bounce back. He had 2 rough evenings in a row, so it's good to see him back on track. Another rookie, Jonathan Mogbo, had a good performance. He was tasked with guarding Nikola Jokic after Jakob Poeltl fouled out, and obviously he's just far too small to do that. But when they went to the bench lineups, he did provide a boost with his energy. The guy is very, very good on the offensive glass. Another 3 offensive rebounds for Jonathan Mogbo in just 21 minutes. So he had 4 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, and was hustling on defense and making plays on that end too. So I'm just enjoying the Jonathan Mogbo experience. It's nothing spectacular, but he is playing the right way, and the results, I would say that the Raptors are better with him on the court. I think that he is a strong piece and a strong reason why the Toronto Raptors bench has been pretty good this season. And of course, we've got to talk about Jakob Poeltl. Jakob Poeltl hit his first 3 last night. He played 9 minutes in the game, was a +10, which I'm not sure you can read too much into. Single game plus minus is notoriously unreliable because there's just so much noise, but it's nice that he's been in the positives, I think pretty much every game that he's played. He does hustle a lot. So he had 2 rebounds, 1 offensive, and 1 assist, and of course he hit that 3 on a beautiful possession. Mogbo secured the offensive rebound, dribbled it back out, got it to Shed, who got it to Gradey Dick, who passed it to Jakob Poeltl, who was wide open in the corner, and he cashed his first 3. So hopefully that gets him the little bit of confidence so that he can be an offensive contributor off of the bench. All of the minutes that he's getting right now are going to help him grow as a player. So even if he's not contributing at the highest level, that's not really what it's about right now. You want to see guys taking steps forward, and obviously making your first 3 as a 20-year-old rookie, that's a big moment for him. So I hope to see him continue to grow. And as I said, there's going to be a little bit of Darko slander in here because at the end of the game, he made a couple of questionable decisions regarding timeouts, the most egregious of which, I mean, there were a couple of things that he could probably would take back now if he could, but the biggest one was when Jonathan Mogbo retrieved the offensive rebound and got blitzed. And because he was blitzed, the clock really dwindled, and by the time that they got the ball back out, Davion Mitchell kind of had to take a desperation 3-point shot and it didn't go in. It was bad clock management, it was bad timeout management, and of course you can point to the officials all you want, but if you are in a position to win the game, you have to make the correct decision as the head coach, as the guy calling the shots, as the guy moving the chess pieces. You got to do it. So from that standpoint, he did not do a very good job. And there are a couple of positives about Darko. I think that his methods for developing players and his rapport with players, helping them get better, is clearly excellent. He has been doing a very good job bringing guys along. Instilling the system, that's also very important. He has done a good job there. And then his rotation has actually been pretty good. I've liked how he has used players and how many minutes he's allocating to them. Not much of a complaint last season. A bit of a complaint with Chris Boucher and whatnot, but this season, not much of a complaint. His in-game management, I would say, is the biggest thing that he needs to get better at. He needs to be able to make adjustments, call timeouts at the right time, draw up the correct play at the right time so that you're not forced into difficult shots in low shot clock situations. Those are things that I think he can get better at. And maybe you look at players on the court as prospects, like, of course, Jakob Poeltl. If he goes 1 for 4 from the field like he did today, you're going to be like, okay, well, he's going to get better. We don't have to worry too much. He's not going to shoot like that every night. I think that also applies to coaches as well. This is Darko's 2nd season. This is his first head coaching job. He's doing other things very well. I think we should cut him a little bit of slack when it comes to game management. If this is an issue in year 4 or 5 where the team is clearly ready to take the next step and compete, then we have to start having conversations about in-game management, because that's when it starts getting more important than the coaching guys up part. But at this point, we can say that he made a bad choice and he did something wrong while not fully throwing him under the bus and saying we should get rid of this guy. Just thought I'd point that out. So that was a pretty difficult loss against the Denver Nuggets, who I think that the Toronto Raptors outplayed for most of the night, and they weren't able to come away with the victory. They've dropped to 2-6 on the season, and they are going to be doing another rematch tomorrow at 10 o'clock against the Sacramento Kings, who will be looking for revenge after that very close victory for the Toronto Raptors just a couple of nights ago. And I'm excited to see how the Raptors respond to that challenge. In any case, that is the video. Hope you were able to take something away from it. Hope you enjoyed watching the Raptors as much as I have for the past couple of weeks. I think that they're on the right track. But what do you think? Do you think that the Toronto Raptors are moving in the right direction? Keep Poeltl, trade him while his value is high right now, or keep him to help the development of the young players. Also, what do you think about the reffing? Am I imagining things, or are the Raptors kind of getting a little hosed? especially in late game situations. It seems like the whistle is going against them a little bit. Let me know here in the comments and also on Twitter, where you can reach me at Raps Report. And as always, thank you for tuning in to Raptors Report, your source for in-depth Raptors content.